Hello and welcome. This is simply a video where I talk about how talking to people about whether or not you have Asperger syndrome, who to tell, who not to tell, and where discretion and discernment is needed. Personally, I tend to follow the rule of getting to know me first and then telling them that I have Asperger syndrome. Now, let me explain why. In my time, it's been about 25 years since I've been diagnosed with Asperger syndrome. So, in my time of learning about this condition, I've had many ups and downs. And the reason why you tell people when they get to know you as a general rule of thumb is simply people have a way of what you could say is pigeonholing or putting people into boxes or categories. Now, when you see somebody with like on a wheelchair, for example, or Down syndrome, you say that's a person with Down syndrome, and you'd be absolutely right. But that doesn't define the person as the whole. You don't know that individual. All you know is that they are simply disabled just by looking at them. But a person in their brains, often when you tell them, oh yes, my name's Terry, I've got Asperger syndrome, what is their thinking? That person has got a disability, and therefore they are thinking that that person is a disability, and they probably think you far worse than maybe you actually are. The vast majority of people in general probably don't know enough about autism unless they have personal experience with autism themselves, or know about the extreme cases. So more often than not, they probably will think of you as probably more severe than you may realise. In other words, they'll be thinking about what you can't do. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes in this area, I can say that. I've had some highs and lows and in that regard. Now, there are some people you do tell about Asperger syndrome. These are kind of the no-brainers. Obviously, family members, they probably likely know before you do, or probably they're people that you should tell. As regards your potential boss or employers, people that are important, they do need to know. But if you can do a job extremely well without them needing to know that you've got Asperger syndrome, I don't see a problem with you not revealing it. But obviously doctors need to know, and people that are in, shall we say, positions of authority as such, as a general rule. What it comes down to is maturity levels with people in general. Kids and young adults, or people in their early 20s, most generally you're going to have to ease them into it quite a fair bit, because they can be a bit small-minded and, quite honestly, quite immature. Nothing against younger adults. People of all ages can be very tolerant and very accepting, but you have to realise that, put simply, they're still growing up a bit, and that's a harsh truth. Telling somebody that you don't know you've got Asperger syndrome, they can make any number of judgments even thinking that you're mentally retarded. Except it is a sad fact on that area, because people like us with Asperger syndrome, we've got so much about our personalities. We're very intelligent, even though we struggle with social skills. I'm doing this video off the cuff, and so I'm kind of stuttering a bit, etc, etc. But it doesn't make me any less of a person. This is the thing. When you tell people about it, once they get to know the real you, then they've seen much more dimensions. Then they can make an educated decision on who you are. That you're not just that person, that disabled friend or something. It can be quite patronising, but you're David, you're Joey, you're Anne, or Zoe, or whoever. You're the person with Asperger syndrome. You see, I've never settled with the idea that your disability defines you, or condition, or whatever. It does not define you. It is a part of you, a part of who you are. And so it is very unfair, and sadly quite ignorant, that people will think of you as a disability. Now, here's some of interest. Ignorance is directly related to stupidity. So people that are ignorant are often quite stupid, and oftentimes don't know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, in life, no matter which way you go, you will suffer ignorance from people that many times probably should know better, and many that are just plain ignorant. The thing is, it's not worth getting upset about, though. If they've got to know you and they reject you because you've got Asperger syndrome, then they're the ones with the problem, pure and simple. Probably one of the more interesting subjects is, how do you reveal the fact that you've got Asperger syndrome to someone that you're romantically involved with? I've not got any experience in that area, but I will go by what I've read and learned. For one thing, if you're going to be spending a lot more time with somebody romantically, they're going to figure out that you've got something different. If you're two people that have both got an Asperger syndrome, really, I don't think there's going to be too much of a problem, you both knowing about it. Although the chances are you might have to talk, if you ever want children, there is apparently a 50% chance that you might have children with autism on the autism spectrum. But say you're on Asperger on a date with a so-called, what you call a neurotypical girl, or normal girl, or whatever. At some, I would say, give it a bit of time, right? You're getting to know each other, but once you start deciding that you really like this person, and that you think that it's got some potential, or she starts like you, or vice versa, you know, I'm talking in variables here. But once you decide that it could have a potential chance, then you start telling them that you've got Asperger syndrome. And if they reject you there and then, believe you me, they're not worth your time. Because, like I've said in this video, Asperger syndrome is a part of who you are. You shouldn't deny it or run for it. If a person does not want to accept you for the person you are, they are not worth knowing. And I've experienced people not wanting to know me because I am different and I've got Asperger syndrome. And yes, I can tell you right now, it does hurt. But let's face it, if I was married to that person, I certainly would not be happy. I would probably be wishing I would be out of that marriage, and I would be extremely miserable. So yes, it hurts initially, and it may take some time to recover from, but at the same time, you are you. So when you tell people about who you are, that you are Asperger's, it's up to them how they deal with it. You're not mentally retarded. You don't have to go through a number of facts. Hey, you've got the National Autistic Society videos, etc. You could just simply show a short video of what it is. You know, there's a lot of ways of showing how it affects you. I mean, obviously there's no set rule of thumb as such. I mean, every single person with Asperger syndrome that I've met and know about are completely different. So, therefore, just accept that the fact that you're different, that everybody's different. So yeah, by all means, you should at some point tell people that you have Asperger syndrome, but they should get to know you first as well. That's my point in essence. Thank you for watching this video. You can subscribe, etc. I'm not a pro, but yeah. And if you've got any questions about Asperger syndrome, I've got a good 25 years of dealing with it, with trial and error. And I welcome any comments that you may have. Thank you. Bye.